Adverse impact, a summary and expansion of Chapter 12, Test Administration Issues from Test Development, Fundamentals for Certification and Evaluation by Melissa Fine. Presented by Kristen Smathers for Human Performance Improvement at Clemson University. Laws are designed to level the playing field by forcing employers to only consider objective, job-related criteria when making employment decisions. We're now going to look further into some of these laws, including Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, Age Discrimination in Employment Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Title VII is a provision of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, gender, and national origin. Later pregnancy is added to the list. Title VII applies to employers with 15 or more employees. Age Discrimination in Employment Act prohibits employment discrimination against persons aged 40 years and Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in employment and job seeking. Pregnant women are to be treated the same as other employees who are disabled. Anti-discrimination laws apply in all employment areas. Pre-employment, such as resume review, criminal background checks, or credit reports, etc. Hiring, testing, knowledge, skills, and abilities, physical agility tests, math, etc. During employment, think of promotions, demotions, transfers, performance appraisals, training and development, etc. And then at the end of employment, for terminations, reductions in force, and layoffs. As time marches on, legal cases are forever rewriting and amending and interpreting previous laws. It's ever evolving, and our job in human resources is to stay abreast of these cases, these findings, and adjust our workforce, our responsibilities, our policies and procedures accordingly. Some of the cases to explore regarding to adverse impact I've listed here, and there are many others out there. Adverse impact refers to employment practices that appear neutral but have a discriminatory effect on a protected group. Adverse impact is used interchangeably with disparate impact. Remedies of back pay, reinstatement, and retroactive seniority are available for all types of discrimination, whether intentional or disparate impact. Disparate treatment is intentional discrimination. Employees may seek compensatory and punitive damages up to $300,000. Disparate impact is also known as adverse impact. It is unintentional discrimination towards a protected group. You try. Is this disparate treatment or disparate impact? The manager says to hire women only. This is disparate treatment. Women are being intentionally treated differently. A physical test that women cannot pass. This is disparate impact. Women are being impacted by a test they cannot pass. This is adverse impact on women. Testing can apply in all employment areas. In pre-employment, resume reviews, criminal background checks, credit reports, etc. In hiring, for testing for knowledge, skills, and abilities, physical agility tests, math, etc. During employment, for promotions, demotions, transfers, performance appraisals, training and development, etc. And at the end of employment, for terminations, reductions in force, layoffs. Don't discriminate. Don't use tests that violate anti-discrimination laws. Don't allow adverse impact to impede diversity. You do want to understand the test effectiveness and limitations for the organization. Make sure that your scoring is fair. Confirm that the tests are job related. Confirm the business necessity. You'll want to follow the Uniform Guidelines on Employee Selection Procedures and apply the 4/5 rule. When designing tests, it's good to consider the 4/5 rule. These next two slides will demonstrate an if-then scenario where they are expecting 90% of hires to be male, and then multiplying by 80%, able to determine that 72% is the 4/5 threshold for women to be hired as well. Said another way, it is good to know what to expect when designing tests. Men are the largest group, and they've got 90 in that category. So we ask, what is 80% of that 90? And we solve that by multiplying 90 by 0.80, which is also 4/5, and that equals 72 women that need to be hired in order to rule out adverse impact. We want to monitor test results. First, determine the selection rate for each group, and that should be greater than 2% of the applicant pool. Identify the largest group and calculate the impact ratios by dividing the selection rate for each group by the largest group. Then you review your results. If you've got less than 80% impact ratios, then adverse impact does exist. You can also monitor your test results to see where you stand with adverse impact. In these examples, we take the females, the first example, 64 divided by 90, and that equals 71. 71% is less than 80, so therefore adverse impact does exist in this scenario. In the second example, you'll see that it's 84 females hired to the 90 males, and when you divide 84 by 90, you get 93, and that is greater than 80%. So there is no adverse impact in this scenario. Now you try it. Does adverse impact exist in this scenario? We have 74 Asian applicants. Of those, we hired 56, and we have 74 Hispanic applicants, of which we hired 68. When we do the math and we divide 56 by 68, we reveal that there is no adverse impact in this scenario. Real-life scenarios are much more complicated, and the number of applicants assigned to specific gender, race, etc. Differ from one another. So how do we find the selection rate when those numbers differ? What we do here is we take the hire rate divided by the applicant, and come up with a selection rate for each category. For example, in the Asian category, we take 56 divided by 104, and that comes out to 0.54 or 54%. For Hispanics, we have got 68 hires divided by the 74 applicants, and that comes out to a 92% there. So to look at the impact ratio between the two, we are looking at 54 divided into the largest category of 92 equals 59%, which is less than 80%. So adverse impact does exist in this example. The 4/5 rule is an excellent tool, but it does have some limitations when a small sample size exists, often less than 50 employees. Some other assessments that you may want to use are the differential item functioning, chi-square test, the Fisher-Exact test. As practitioners, I think it's best that we all stay abreast of current events as the laws are ever evolving. Some items to keep an eye out for are the COVID reductions in force, LGBTQ rights, and the EEOC's strategic enforcement plan. I have also concluded this presentation with a quiz for your knowledge and a checklist for your future use to assess adverse impact. The EEOC, or the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, governs discrimination, adverse impact, and the like. As such, I have included a link to their website here because you can find many valuable resources on their site. Thank you for your time, and my references are on the following slide.